Hello and welcome to our live stream. Today we're going to be talking about the latest Divi feature, and this is the Divi backgrounds and patterns. All right, so for those of you who are joining us, this is one of those updates which I'm really excited to do because it makes Divi work much better, much faster, and also gives us design opportunities to enhance our website. All right, so I can see quite a lot of you are already tuned in. This is fantastic. So hello and welcome to what we're going to do now is I have a site here. This is just basically Divi running here, nothing fancy. So what I'll be showcasing is the main Divi feature. Okay. One of those updates which I'm really excited to do because. And also, if at any point you'd like to purchase Divi, I have a link in the video description below. You have 10% off and you also get my course absolutely free. It's called Divi Jumpstart. All right, so first of all, if you want to use this feature, what you need to do is to first update Divi to the latest version. It is version 4.15.1. And let me just show you quickly where you can update that. So I'm just going to open my new tab here to my dashboard. Oops. Anyway, let me discard and exit. Right. So what you want to do is to first click here where it says updates. This is where it will show if it needs updating. So as you can see here on the bottom here, it says all my themes are up to date. That means I'm running my latest version of Divi. All right. So what we're going to do now is start off with a brand new page. So I can show you where this feature is. So I'm going to say add new. And for this page, let's just give this a name. We're going to call this BG for background and then click on use Divi Builder. All right. So for this, we're going to build from scratch. However, this can work pretty much anywhere on your website. So you can just use pre-made layouts and this will work very fine. All right, so for this design, we're just going to go with something basic. We're going to go with 2 columns. Right, so in order for this to work, we need to start adding some graphics. So let's start by adding an image over here. So I'm going to search for my image module and add it. All right, so now let me choose my image. So I already have an image here, which I uploaded to my media library. So I'm going to select it and upload image. Okay, so that's just my basic image right here. I'm going to do a few things here. I'm going to add a drop shadow. So I'm going to come over here to box shadows. Let's see if that works. Okay, so that doesn't work because I was hoping to get a drop shadow on the actual boundaries here. All right, so anyway, that's fine. The next step now is to add a bit of text over here so our design balances. So I'm going to search for my text module and select it. All right, so let's cut that and let's make this heading 1. And then let's stylize this heading 1. So I'm going to come over here to design. And let's go to our text here. In fact, our text here is heading text. So let's go to my favorite font. So this is going to be Poppins for those of you that have seen my tutorials. All right. So over here, let's make it bold. And let's also increase the size a little bit so we can see what we're working with. Okay, great. So now that I have my main text, I'm going to come back over here. And let's add some paragraph text as well. So there we go. And now let's go and stylize this. So over here, we're also going to choose Poppins so that our design is pretty much consistent. Okay, let's increase this to about 16. And save. We may also need a call to action, but you know what? I'm going to leave that for now because our main focus here is the actual backgrounds. Okay, right. So what I can do now is I can go to my section settings here, click on background, and this is where all the magic starts. So we have extra tabs here. So if you're using Divi before, you'll notice that we only had a few. So these additions are the background pattern and the background mask. So let's start with the patterns. So if I click on this tab and then click on this plus button, we now have patterns. So the first one here is the polka dots. That's the first one, but there's a drop down where you can choose different types of patterns. So we can go with this one, for example, and we can also do a bit of customizations here. So we can change the transformation here. I know it's very subtle. You can't really see it, but I am changing my transformation here. Now there's also something we can do here. This is almost like dark mode. So if I select that, you notice that it just changes everything. And now it's the colors now have pretty much changed, you know, flipped. Okay. So now over here, we also have our pattern size. So we can go in and customize to fit, to cover, and so on. So you can see here when I go to cover, it pretty much covers my whole design. And I can go to stretch. I can even go to custom size. This is where we were. Now you can also go in here and play around with the height. So you can see here, as I am playing around with the sizes here, I'm actually increasing the size and so on. But you know what? I'm going to keep everything simple. Let's leave it as it is. But I'm just showing you here, like all the other possibilities that you can do with this feature. Now, we have a pattern here. I'm sure, as you can see here, this is very distracting. It really interferes with your text. So you really want to use this with, very, very careful, because you could literally mess up your design. So you want to make sure that, however, when you start using these background patterns, you are blending them, and you're also decreasing the intensity. So for example, here we can drill this down and we can make it very subtle. So you can see here, it is very subtle. I would even go as far as even adding a gradient. So let me go ahead and do that. So if I come over here to gradient, and let's add our gradient. So I'm going to start with my first color here. I'm going to make it white, and my second color is going to be transparent. All right. So now we can change our gradient direction and set it to 90. Okay, so now that we have set it to 90, we can place the gradient above the image. In fact, that's not working. So I'm going to come to my background pattern here, and let's go to our blend mode. Right, so I've set my blend mode to multiply. So let me set my first color here. Okay, so it looks like my blend mode is working, but it's just that I had my colors all mixed up. Okay, so there we go. So now the gradient is only showing over here to the right. But of course, like I said, you can add your color and this would work. Now, we can also change the colors of the actual pattern. So let me show you how you do that. So if you come over here to the pattern, if we select all these colors here, you can see that I can choose pretty much any color that I want. And I can also decrease the intensity by just dragging the slider down like that. But like I said, you want to use this in such a way that it is not distracting and is not covering your text. So that's the best way to use it. Okay, so we also have different patterns, as I mentioned. Here are some of these patterns here. You can flip them around, like I mentioned, and also you can add different styles. Okay, now here's my most exciting part. So the patterns are okay, but I really love the background masks. And now let me show you how you can use that. So we're just going to delete our pattern here, and that is how you delete it if you want to get rid of it. So now let's say we add a gradient, right? So we're going to start with, let's go with blue. Okay, and let's go with white. Okay, so let's say that's our gradient. Oops. Okay, let's say that's our gradient. So now, when we go to our background mask, notice what happens. If I click on this plus button, I've now basically added a mask, and this is our first one. It's called Layer Blob. And if I click on this drop down, we also have quite a few to choose from. So you can see here, I have this this one here I've just selected, which I think works with our design here. It's very minimal, and it's also very, it's not distracting. It's also highlighting where my image is here. So I really like that. I think that's really cool. Let's go and choose other ones. So we also have this one right here, which I also think is good. So now that we have our shape, what we can do is we can go in and start playing around with the colors. So if I come back over here, I can now go in and say, okay, maybe I want this this color right here, and my other color is going to be, let's say that. So that could work pretty well. So it just depends what colors you want to use from your branding. So let's go with something a bit different here. Okay, so there we go. You can play around with your colors here from your branding, and this will work really well. Okay, so let's say I have my colors here. There's also other features you can play around with. You can also use blend modes. And let me show you where that is. So over here on our background mask, we can come over here to, oh, in fact, we need to go to the image itself. And we also have all these other features here where we can add our image blend. Now over here on our gradient, let's say you want to use something different and you want to use a specific solid color. You can just delete that. And now you can choose your color. Now notice that it's very important that you choose your color here, because if you don't choose your color, then the blend modes will not work. So you want to make sure you choose your colors. So again, we can go with different colors. As you can see here. Now that we have our shape here, we can also decide to add it to different places. Okay, so let's say you want to flip it. You can just do that. You can say, you can, have this on different positions, but make sure that when you have a dark color here, your text is white, so we can have great contrast as we are designing our site. Right. I can see here there's quite a few questions. We have a question here about speed. Right. So when it comes to speed, in fact, let me switch my camera here. Oops. Let me have a look. Let me just go through the questions. Right. So when we talk about speed does not, these shapes do not affect your website speed. And that is because these are little shapes, very, very tiny shapes, which are highly optimized. So even though it looks massive on the page right now, it does not make your website slow. Now, this feature here is very important for me because every time I wanted to use something like this or a shape, I had to go to Illustrator, create a shape, and then have part of the shape as transparent so that works as my mask. Now we no longer have to do that. We have all these shapes now in our design, which is fantastic. All right, so let's take a look here at more questions. Okay, so let's see here. And by the way, guys, if you have any more questions, just add your questions here so I can go in. Cristobal here says, I don't like the mask that came in one with Divi. Do you mean the latest mask that I'm talking about, or because we didn't have any masks before? This is the first time you're having the masks. Yes. Cristobal here says, I hope you can create your own mask. Now, that's, to be honest, is something that I would have loved, but I think if we start adding the ability to create your own masks in Divi, this may slow down the software. It becomes way too bloated because, as you can imagine, this is going to be pretty much like a Photoshop. And if the goal here is to have a website functioning, and then we start adding all these high intensity customizations where we can go in and customize things, I think that will make the software slower. But of course, that will be really, really cool. If we start adding the ability to create your own masks, let's have a look. I'm just going through the questions here. Photoshop. And if the goal here is to have a website functioning, and then we start adding all these Ivo says, can you quickly explain what is most problematic for speed? I think the question here is, what will be... let's have a look. I'm just going through the questions here. The most problematic thing that we can have here with speed is size of images. So if you use massive images on your website, it's going to be a problem. The second thing is, if you don't use presets as you're designing your website, again, that is going to be a problem because you are going to be loading different instances of CSS on your single page. So you want to use presets. You also want to use highly optimized images. There's quite a few videos on my channel that I've made that will help you optimize your website for speed. But in particular, what we're talking about today does not affect the speed of your website. If you don't use presets as you're designing your website, again, Binay says, how to create website animations using Divi. Do you recommend any supportive plugins? Right. I do not encourage animations on the sites. I mean, if you want to do that, it has to be very subtle. So let me show you quickly where you can go for animations. But like I said, I don't recommend this because it's just adding a lot of more code to your website. Okay, so if you wanted to animate this, for example, you'd click here on this gear icon and you go to design, and then you go to animation. So these are the animations we have. We have bounce, we have slide, we have fade, and all these, by the way, you can go in and further customize this. So for example, for the bounce here, I can choose the direction, I can choose the time, I can also choose the delay, the opacity, and so on. So this is the animation panel in Divi. All right, so let's see, do we have any more? So these are the animations we have. We have bounce, we have slide, we have fade, and all these, by the way, you can go in and further customize this. So for example, for the bounce, I can choose. Christian says, add extra masks and patterns. Yes, absolutely. On this one here, I agree with you. These patterns here are not, I mean, they're very few. And because of this, the more people start using these patterns and masks, the websites are going to look pretty similar. So you really want to go in and customize this as much as you can to make yourself unique. But I agree, the ability to add more of our own shapes in there will be very good. The same we do with the fonts. With the fonts, we can upload our own fonts. So if we could do this with the masks, that'll be awesome. But I can see why that'll be a problem because perhaps this will add, more complexity to the developers to add that feature in. But what could be done here out of the box is add basically way more shapes in there. The same way we have a lot of fonts to choose from. I think the shapes, the masks needs to be, like way more, at least, 50, for example, different variations that you can use. So yes, I agree with you 100%. And also the patterns, having more, I think, will be great, although we can go in and really customize each one of those. Okay, let's have a look here. Yeah, Binay, if the client wants advanced animations, this one here is a bit, it's a bit tricky because when it comes to the clients that want specific features, sometimes the client thinks having the animations and having background videos and all of that, yes, it may look cool, but it has a massive effect on the performance of the website. So this is where now as designers, we need to go in and educate our clients the pros and cons of these extra features they may want, because they may see this on a website and on a separate website and think, well, this is the best thing I want exactly this on my site, but not realizing that some of these sites that have all these crazy animations, they're just websites that really are there for brand awareness, for example. But if you wanted a page that's going to convert and get you a lot of leads, the more complexity you have on that page, the less it's going to perform well. So this is something that we have to be careful about as designers in trying to educate our clients on what is best for them. But yes, if you wanted to do advanced animations, this you'd have to create your graphics in either software like Premiere Pro, and then bring it in as a video, or you can use GIFs. But in terms of creating the animations themselves in Divi, this is basically what we can do. There is nothing much more that we can do in terms of the designs. Okay. So let's move on and let me show you more stuff that we can do here with our latest feature. Okay, so for this here, we can have our backgrounds on sections. We can have it on rows. We can also have them on the modules themselves. So let me show you how you do that. So if I come over here to my row settings and I go to the background, again, we can see them here. So let's say I add a background color and I decide to add my mask. There we go. So you can see here, it is just in my row. But this option here, I'm not really a fan of it because it then cuts out the ends here. So it looks like an incomplete design. So I don't really like the way it looks there. But like I said, we have quite a lot of options here that we can play around with. But I wouldn't recommend to use it in your rows. I think this looks much better in your actual sections. Okay, but of course the option is there for you if you want to be fancy with it and play around with the different options that we can have here. Okay, so I'm playing around here with the aspect ratio. So this is 16:9, this is square, and this is more of a rectangle. Like I mentioned, we also have our blend modes here. So you can go in and play around with your blend modes, provided you have a color here that you can blend with. Okay, now let me show you what you can also do in the actual module. So if I go in here, go to my background. Okay, so let's first do the patterns. So I can have my patterns just in that module. So you can see here, it's showing in the background. But this works this way because my image here has a background. I mean, doesn't have a background. So it is a PNG. So that's why it's showing. But if you had a solid image, you would not be able to see these shapes. Okay, so you can go in and these different shapes here we can play around with. And this is a design that you probably, may want to go with. But like I said, play around with this in such a way that it is not overpowering. So I would have it very subtle, like that. Okay. Now over here on the background. So let's say we add our mask. So let's go in and let's add something here. Now you notice that nothing is showing. That is because we need a color here in the background so that we can mask it. So you can see now, I'm really highlighting the area where I have my image. So let's say you have an image, which is pretty much a solid image. How does that work in terms of our design? So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click here on this plus button. This time I'm going to do a full width. Okay. So let's go with the full width header. Right. So now I can decide to make it full width here. I'm going to come to design, layout, and let's set this to full screen. Okay, so there we go. So here we have a good start. So let's go to our background now and add our image. So I'm going to come over here, click on my third tab here, and then add my image. So the image I'm going to add here is a bit different. So I'm going to go with this one. Right. So now that I have my image, I can also play around with my position here. Let's go with top center. In fact, no, let's go with bottom center. Okay, that's much better. All right, great. So now that I have my image here in the background, we have to now start playing around with our masks here so that our design really shines. So I'm going to click here on this plus button, and right away you can see that my mask here has been added, but my text here, because it's white, is not visible. Okay, so you need to be aware of that. So we are going to fix this in a moment, but we first need to decide how this is going to look. Okay, so now that we have this, so let's try and change our shapes here. Okay, so that doesn't look great at all. Let's have a look. Okay, that's not looking good. But now that I have this, I can also change things around like that. So now we're getting somewhere. So we have our image showing on this part here. But this may not be the way we want things to look. So now, if I go to my blend mode, if I click on soft light, notice what happens. We have this design all of a sudden now on our main landing page where we have this part now light. So you can go through, a lot of these blend modes to start coming up with different styles to our design. I don't know why you'd want that unless you're designing something to do with horrors or horror film or horror websites. I don't know. So let's continue here. Overlay. Okay. But these do not work really well unless you're looking for something that is specific on your design. But I mean, as you can see here, these blend modes actually work. So this is the normal state of our blend modes. So now let's say I have a color in the background, so or gradient, or in fact, let's add patterns here. So now if I add my patterns, you notice that they go onto this part here, but that doesn't look great as well. It's just distracting. But if we really wanted this to work, you'd need to have a very good image that really works well. If you have, let's say, an image of a person here, ideally you don't want them cut out, so you want to have them in the actual frame. All right, so let's customize this and see how we can try and fix this. So if I go to fit, okay, that doesn't work. So you really have to play around with this to come up with right cover. That doesn't work well too. Okay, let's go to customize size. Okay, so that's for our width, our mask position. We can also play around with this. We can set it to top right, bottom right, and so on. And we also have our offset here as well. Okay. Let's go to customize size. But as you can see here, it starts getting messy out of the box. Ideally, what I would like to have is an image that I know definitely works. And then once I have that image and I add it here, this is what's going to, really make the difference to our design. Now let's choose an image which would work for this. So I'm going to go to, let's go to pixels. Okay, by the way, add your questions in the comments box so I can respond to them. But as you can see here, it starts getting messy out of the box. Ideally, what I would like to have is an image that I know definitely works. Okay, so over here on pixels, this, let's say we want to do something to do with adventure. Let's just look for something here. And the orientation here needs to be horizontal because it's going to work as my main hero image. So notice what we have here. This image here would work really well because we can mask this part out and then have our text over here on the left. So these are the sort of things you want to look at as you're choosing your images. You want to look for something that is framed over to the right or to the left so you can add your mask. This one here is another good one. In fact, let's go ahead and download this one here. So I'm going to come over here. Let's go with 1920. Right. So back over here on our design, we're going to go in, go to our background and add our image. Okay, I'm just going to drag and drop it. All right. So now that I have my image added. Again, we're going to make this full width. So I'm going to come over here to my layout. No. To right. So back over here on our design, we're going to go in. Hold on. Background and add our image. Okay, I'm just going to drag and drop it. Oh, I'm in the wrong settings. Okay, I'm supposed to be in here. Okay, let's go to our design layout and let's set this to full screen. Okay, so our image here needs to be in the background. So I'm going to come over here and go to my background. So now let's start by adding our image. So that's our image right here. Right, so this is where now we can start adding our masks. So I'm going to come over here and start choosing. So already you can see now that this looks much better, but I'm not really a fan of this one right here. So let's choose another one. Okay, so that one could work because it's mainly focusing here on the right. Let's choose other ones. So let's try that one could work as well. And because our main focus is on that image, let's choose another one. In fact, we could go with this one as well. This one is great. So I'm going to say for now, and let me start working on my text now. Okay, so we can go in. So now let's change our font here to Poppins. Select that, and I'm going to change my color. All caps. We're going to make this bold. And then we're going to increase the size. There we go. Now let's go to our paragraph text. Same thing. Let's change our font here so everything is consistent. And we're also going to change our color. Now I'm just using this color here quickly so that I can get my design here looking good really fast. Okay, so that's my text. We may also want to have our call to action button here. So I'm going to come here and let's add our color. In fact, this needs to be white, and then our background. Okay, let's make that red as our background color. And before we navigate away from here, let's also add our font. And let's make it bold. All caps. All right, so now we have our call to action. So we're not done yet because we can go in and also customize, our size here. So let's go to sizing. Okay, so for our content width here, I can reduce this and really make it focus over here on the left. So let's go with 40. Okay. So that's my text over there on the left. Now, as I'm looking at this, there's too much text here. So let's just remove some of this text because ideally we want something that is easy on the eye as we're designing it. Okay, great. So now you can see that just quickly, we're able to go in and have our mask here on our shape, and that already is looking really cool. So at any point, if you want to go in and change it, you can just say, okay, first of all, we can go to our background here. Oops, I meant to go to our masks. So let's say over here on our mask, we can change this wave, go with something like that. Now already that is also looking really cool. I really like that actually. That is really nice. And then let's drag it to the top. And there we go. That becomes our main hero image. Of course, we can customize this further in our settings. So I'm going to come over here to design. No, we need to go to a background. Because this looks like a design element, I keep thinking that I need to go to the design. Okay, so back over here, we can flip things around. You can see now our shape looks slightly different here. We can choose our aspect ratio. But you know what? This one here is the best. We can just leave it as that. And our blend mode here is on normal, but of course, like I said, we can play around with our blending modes. So you can see here, because we have a color in the background, it is going in there and creating this this color here. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Okay, so multiply doesn't work. You can go with overlay. So now we have our shape here really highlighting that area there. But as you can see, this is a matter of playing around with these blend modes if you need to use them. But of course, if you want to keep things slightly basic, you can just go with that. So at any point you want to change this, you can just go in and change this. So look at that. Now that one is a bit distracting. I wouldn't go with that one. Nope, that one doesn't work. That one is also cool. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at our questions here. Yeah, Jonathan says, can you create your own masks and patterns in Photoshop or Illustrator and upload them and upload the SVG file to Divi somehow? Right, so I touched on this earlier on. If you design your own shapes in Illustrator or Photoshop and then upload them, that shape there is quite difficult to change around. Like you can see here with our design, I'm able to flip it around and do a few things to it. That's the first problem. The second problem is if you create your own shapes, that's going to really take a toll on your page speed. These shapes here that are creating these shapes are very, very small files, and they're highly optimized to make your website fast. So having your own images is definitely going to slow down your website. To change around, like you can see here with our design, I'm able to flip it around and do a few things to it. That's the first problem. The second problem is if you right. So to make the font more legible over the background image, could semi-opaque background could be added. Yes, absolutely correct. It's all about contrast. So if you have text that is dark, you want to have a background which is opaque or very, very light. It makes it easier for people to read when they take a look at your website. So like here, you can see the text here is very easy to read, but if we had a dark background, would need to make the text as light as possible so it's much easier to read. It's all about contrast. So if you have text that all right, so for those of you who are joining us, this is the new Divi feature live, where I talk about the latest Divi features in detail and show you how we can use this on our own website. So what we're talking about today is the background masks and patterns. So you can apply these to your sections, your rows, and also your modules. It's very, very easy to use, and I highly recommend that you start playing around with this. It brings a bit more creativity to your websites rather than just having just images which are static there on the side. So I think this is really good. But as I mentioned before, if you use background patterns, you really need to make sure that you're not using them in such a way that they're overpowering and causing a lot of distraction to the text that you have on your website or your images that you have, because very easily this can be it can become very, very messy. So use it in a very, very subtle way. I will be creating more tutorials showing you how you can use this latest feature in your design projects. And also I'm going to have more designs on the site crafter, which is my template, which if you in fact, I think I have the link in the video description below. If you go ahead, you can check it out. It makes you design your website super fast by just installing it as a plugin. So I will be adding all these designs to add more creativity to our site. All right, so pretty much we've come to the end of our show here. Let me see. Are there any questions? I can still hang around if you have any questions. Can we use third-party plugins to make page speed faster for Divi or... Okay. Great question, Evo. It's okay. I can. It's off topic, but it's a great question. So to make your website fast, there's also external things that we can use, which are number one, you can use a caching plugin. I use WP Rocket. It is very, very good. It helps cache your CSS and also your images. So that's one. That's a plugin that you can use. Highly recommended. Number two, from your web hosting side of things, you also need to make sure that you have a CDN activated. If you use hosting companies like SiteGround or Cloudways, they do have that feature. It just means they distribute your website files across different servers on across the world, and that also helps your website make it super, super fast. So Divi on its own is not enough. You do need external things that you can use to optimize your website. I also touched on this. You also need to make sure that your images are highly optimized. So if you use a software like Photoshop, you see like what I've just done here, this is not great practice. I've just downloaded an image and added it onto my website. That is not good. In the normal way, I would have downloaded this image to my computer, go to bulk resize, I think it's called, upload it there. It gets optimized for the web. So it basically what it means is they're making the file size smaller so that my website loads faster. If you use images straight from the camera or high resolution images that have not been optimized, it will make your website slow no matter how you optimize, your website. So images really make your website slow. All right. Let's have a look here. I can see a lot of questions coming in. Optimized for the web. So basically what it means is they're making the file size smaller so that my website loads faster. If you use GWX, yes, I saw your message. Now, when this feature came out, I want to go in and just add a bit more graphics to it to make it look much nicer because it looked very plain to me. So I will be sending it out via email and notifying everyone about the Course Crafter theme that you can use with LearnDash. So yes, I did see your email. I will be sending it out today. If not today, it'll be first thing tomorrow. But I just want to make it look a bit nicer with this latest feature that we've just received. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Oh, Jose says, can be combined with Parallax. Yes, absolutely. This can be combined with Parallax. So let me show you quickly how that works. Right. So now if I go to my section here. Says can be combined with Parallax. Yes, absolutely. This can be combined with Parallax. Okay, so let me show you quickly. I have Parallax now activated. Let's test and see. Nope, that didn't work. In the video that Nick made, he did mention that this also works with Parallax, so I hadn't tried this, so you really caught me off guard there. Right. So for the Parallax, that's strange. I can see my mask here. Oh, I'm in the wrong mode. That's why. Oh my goodness. Right. Okay. Let's go to Parallax here. Okay. Definitely. I can see there. It is working. You see that? Okay, so just make sure you're in the right mode to add your Parallax. But as you can see here, it's working. I have CSS selected. We can also choose True Parallax, and I think that's actually a very good feature right there. You can see the Parallax is very subtle, but I think that's really nice. Really, really nice. Okay, so Parallax definitely works. Okay, any more questions? Jonathan says, thank you for doing these videos. You're the best presenter by far. Awesome. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Pro 100 says, what tool do you use for SEO? Okay, great question. Rank Math. Yes, I use Rank Math for SEO. That's the tool I use, and it integrates really, really well with Divi as well. I think I did a video sometime last year about the integration, so it's really, really good tool. You're the best presenter by far. Awesome. Thank you very much. Yes, Walter, thank you. Yes, I was in the actual section. Right. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Rank Math. Yes, I use Rank Math for SEO. That's the tool I use, and it integrates. Okay, so looks like we've pretty much covered everything here. If you haven't bought Divi yet, link in the video description below. You get 10% off, and you also get my course, my Divi course for free. This course will help you get up and running really, really, really fast with Divi. So once you've purchased Divi, just let me know, and I will give you access to the course. And of course, you get your 10% discount. And you also get some of my templates for free to just get you up and running super fast. Okay, so let's have a look here. Do we have more questions? My Divi course for free. Okay, Box Office Africa says would have loved to see how they appear on mobile. I think that's fair enough. Let's do that. Let's do that. So I'm going to switch over here to tablet. Okay, so far this is what it looks like on the tablet. Pretty okay. Now on the phone. Something is wrong with this view. It's not looking right. Okay, let's do that. Let's try it from here. I think this is a bug. I think this is a bug because I'm supposed to be in my mobile view here. I can see it says phone view, but what I see on screen here, I'm sure you guys can see this, it's not the phone view. Something is wrong with this view. Something is wrong. Okay, let me try and refresh this. Let's try it from here. Yeah, but these can be optimized for different views as well. So let's try this one more time. Okay, so that's tablet. Yeah, something is wrong. This is not showing correctly. I mean, you can see here on the bottom of the screen, I am flipping between. Am I on? Can you see what I'm doing? Oh, oops. Sorry, guys. You can't see what I'm doing. Okay, so here I am. I'm trying to flip through the different modes. So if I go to phone view, you can see here, it's not showing my phone view, which is weird. Okay, that's the desktop. Phone, tablet, and phone. So clearly, something is wrong here. This is something I need to notify Elegant Themes. This is definitely not working, because we should be able to see what this looks like in different views. Yes, I will make a note of this and let them know that something is wrong here. Let me refresh this one more time so we can make sure that it is a problem. Right, so I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to go in my rows. This is definitely not working. And go to my second column and see if in different views. Yes, I will make a note. In fact, you know what? Let's go to this image. Something is wrong here. Let me refresh this. Right. So let's say so we can make sure that it is a problem. I go into my mobile. Right. So I'm going to do something different here. I'm going to go in. Yep. Something is definitely wrong with these different views. This is not looking great. So definitely this is a bug. I will let the team at Elegant Themes know that we have a problem here with our mobile devices, with our views on our mobile devices. Okay. Zahid says, will this video be available on your channel? This video will be available on my YouTube channel. Yes. Something is definitely wrong with these different views. Victor, yes, I do. I do have a video on rank math. Yes, I did make a video. Elegant teams know that we have a problem here with our mobile devices, with our views. Awesome, Paul. Really appreciate that. Zahid says, will this video be available on your channel? Pascal says, looking for a Divi image hotspot solution. Any idea? Yes, there's a plugin in the marketplace that does the hotspot. Let me see if I can find it quickly for you. Elegant Themes Marketplace. Awesome, Paul. Really appreciate that. Hopefully, I'll be able to find it quickly. So hotspot, because I remember. Okay, here we go. I think it's this one here, because I remember on Black Friday, I did a promotion for this. So let's have a look at the demos. Okay, the one I had a look at, I could go on the actual dot. Oh, here we go. So that's the hotspot. See? And this one here as well. Yeah, so this is the one. It's very inexpensive. So I would go and check this out. It's called Divi Hotspot. It's in the library. Okay. Right. Is it Evo or Ivo? Right. So when you finish a website and you want to give it to the client, this is very important. And I know it's going to sound a bit sneaky in a way, but ideally you want a situation where when you design the website for the client, you negotiate to be the person that really takes care of the website and maintain it for them. Because chances are if they go in, they're going to start breaking things. So when you give it to the client, I would disable a lot of the editing capabilities, because by doing so, they won't go in and start messing around with the design itself. So you leave the design capabilities to you, the main administrator on the site, but for them, you just give them editor permissions, or you can go in and specifically remove certain editing capabilities for that. So that's what I would do, just so that you can maintain a well-designed website where clients don't go in and try and fix them. Now, back in the day when I had my design agency, I had a big problem where I would design a website, make it look nice, and then a month later, the client comes back and says, oh, you know what? I wanted to add my images, and the images will be all over the place, colors added and all of that. And they'll be like, oh, can you help me fix this? So now you have to take 10 steps back to go in and try and fix the problem to make it look nice. And if you try to suggest that you want to charge them extra for your time, you start having a problem, you see. So that's how I would do it. Pitch it in such a way that you end up maintaining the website for the client. That way it is much, much better. But to quickly answer your question, yes, I would disable some of the editing capabilities of the site just to maintain that site. And also if the client does go and say, oh, my website was designed by Mac and the client has changed it around and made it look ugly, you don't want your name to be associated with that. There are a few cases where I've actually said to the client, please do not promote your site as me, the designer of your website, because it didn't look great and I didn't want my name to be on that. Okay. Editing capabilities of the site just to maintain that site. And also if the client does go and say, oh, my website was designed by Mac and the client has changed it around and made it look ugly. Right. I think I've covered pretty much all the questions. Is there anything? Promote your site as me, the designer of your website, because it didn't look great, and I didn't want. Evo, even in the blog, in the blog sections, you know, if you create your blog using the theme builder, all they need to be able to do is to go in and add content. They shouldn't be able to go in and start changing the layout of the templates. I mean, that's going to really mess up the whole blog itself. So just give them permissions to go in and add your featured images, the videos, text, and images and so on the actual site. But when it comes to the design, do not give them the ability to change the templates, because the templates are the designs that pretty much go across the whole website. So you don't want to do that. Right. So guys, I've got a question. I know we use Divi as our main tool here. Would you like to have, say, live streams where we just go through how to use Divi, so that some of you who are new can get to learn how to use Divi in a live show? So please let me know in the comments box by adding the number 1, so we can choose a date where we can have these sessions where we just talk about Divi, how we can use it better in our designs. So if that's something that you would like, please add a 1 in the video description below. If not, just add a 2, because there's obviously a ton of content out there. Some of this content is also in my courses and so on. But if you prefer live workshops like this, please let me know in the comments box by adding a 1. If it's a no, just add a 2. Okay. All right, guys, like I mentioned, the link is in the video description below, 10% off, and you also get my course bonus. You can let me know via email and I'll give you access to that course. All right, so guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I'll see you again in the next episode. All right, so I can see the ones are coming. Fantastic. Yeah, keep adding your responses, and then I'll have a look at it, and then we can choose a date that we can do all our live shows. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.